going to encourage very strongly that our other guys, listen to the recording. This is pretty key, I think. And so with that, let me just introduce Dan. Dan Streetman is he's a dyed-in-the-wool supporter of what we're doing. He's senior vice president at Salesforce.com and the executive sponsor of VetForce, which is a Salesforce initiative to affect the lives of 10,000 veterans through, various ways, and to assist their launch into the Salesforce space. They've been really valued partners for a couple of years now, actually. And so Dan's an Army veteran, West Point Army, has been with Salesforce for quite some time. As I mentioned, he's really a true blue supporter. We're really fortunate to have him, as one of the members of the cause that we all share. So with that, I want to Dan, you want me to give you the screen? Let me just do that.
Why don't you do that? Yeah, why don't you do that, John, and I can see if I can get it up and showing here.
Okay.
Looks like you need to give me control still.
Screen to Dan. There you go. You should have it now.
Yep. And let's get into presentation mode, and then now we're able to see everything.
You're coming through loud and clear.
All right. Excellent. Well, first and foremost, I wanted to actually thank John and the team. Veterans to Work is an incredible organization. As John says, we've been working together for over 2 years now. And really the core and a lot of the driving things about what we do at VetForce are credited to John and really John's vision for what we want to do. And as he mentioned, our goal is to affect the lives of 10,000 veterans through training, certification, and employment in the cloud ecosystem. Hopefully many of you and many of your peers at Salesforce, but more importantly, kind of in the broader ecosystem, which is a lot of what I love to talk about today and give you a little bit of an overview of that. I will move through, since I know you've had some exposure to Salesforce, relatively quickly through a few slides. But through all of this, I just want to underline, your association with Veterans to Work will set you apart from many of those who are working to, establish a place in the cloud ecosystem. I applaud you for the effort of being involved in this program, and anything I can do to help out, please let me know. A little bit about me. I am our Senior Vice President for our Alliances and Channels organization, which means I work with our partners around the globe, both systems integration, or SI partners, and ISV, independent software vendor partners. So my job is to help them engage in the field. So I have team members, if you will, as far east as Czech, and as far to the other east, if you will, is Australia, Singapore, and further into China. So it's a great opportunity for me to get exposed to what we're doing, but it's also a great opportunity for me to work with the ecosystem and do one thing we think is really important here at Salesforce, which is really balancing innovation and customer success. How do you stay focused on the two things that might seem somewhat in opposition, right? If you really want to focus on being successful, making everything work, well, you don't change much. But if you don't change much, you don't grow. So I'll talk a little bit about that, and I think a lot of that is applicable to what we're doing. And in many of the ways, I'll talk about some things about me. One of the things that John knows, and hopefully I love to take on challenges. I love to race marathons and Ironmans. Although I've been out for a good while, I still love to skydive. And I also did deploy in 2009. I actually returned on active duty and deployed to Iraq for 13 months as an IRR soldier. But it's not just about the challenges to me. It's really also about the relationships. When I run now, actually, one of the things I love to do is I actually guide visually impaired runners. So this is last year's Boston Marathon with Jen Herring. I guided this year with Richard Hunter, a visually impaired Marine. When I skydive, actually most of the time was with my daughter. One thing I learned, for those of you who have kids, you probably know this already, as your daughter gets older, the thing to do is to find something that is so expensive she can't do on her own. So that's what we do. We skydive together. And when I did deploy to Iraq, I had a great opportunity to actually set up really the first soccer tournament. There's an organization called, it's basically FC Alliance, and we set up a Unity soccer tournament. So a chance to actually give out and give back was a lot of fun and a good opportunity to do that. So it's not just about the challenges and taking things from me, it's about building relationships. The other thing for me is my passion for helping veterans. My chance to deploy really helped me understand what our women and men who have deployed over and over have gone through, and of course what our country owes them. And it's great when you talk about embracing the magic of and. At Salesforce, our CEO, Mark Benioff, has allowed me to do that. So somewhere in this picture is, of course, John and many of the Vets to Work team, as well as many of our other vet service organizations. So what I'm really getting to when I talk about me is what I encourage all of you to do, which is the same thing we do at Salesforce, which is, if you've heard the phrase before, reject the tyranny of or. We don't have to think about safety. We don't have to only do just what we're passionate about. We can incorporate those things into our work. We can incorporate those things into our life. And that's really fun to me to think about as I go about what we're doing at VetForce and what we're doing at Salesforce. Because really it's a win-win. We have a great obligation to our veterans, or a great obligation to each of you, but we also have an obligation to our customers. And when we can get well-trained, disciplined, smart, innovative women and men out into our workforce, helping our Salesforce customers, that's a win-win all the way around. So again, if we think about embracing innovation, also embracing safety and growth and trust, that's important to us. And so in many ways, you see that at Salesforce. We like to think of us as a crossroads of innovation and customer success. We've been the most innovative company, according to Forbes, for 4 years in a row. We're also the fastest growing company in the enterprise software space, and we do that by our focus on trust. All of you have probably had a chance to hear from Hector or others, and you've seen trust.salesforce.com. That's critically important to us. And if you can find that right mix and embrace the magic of and, you create a lot of opportunity. And that's a little bit what we'll see here at Salesforce. I'll give you a couple brag slides. You've probably been exposed to all these things, but look, we're the fastest growing top 10 software company, growing at 32% over the last 7 years. This quarter, as Mark has announced before, we will be a $6 billion company on a run rate basis, and that's really exciting. But what's exciting to me in my job is also that our partners' business is also growing. The joint sales we did with consulting partners, folks like, I just condensed my chat, like Josh Aguilar, who's at Accenture. I think we have a couple others out there. Their joint sales with Salesforce is growing even faster than Salesforce is. That means, as we grow our opportunity, we grow our footprint of our customers, there's actually even more opportunity for our software partners. We also have exciting growth going in within the ecosystem. So the new ISVs who joined our ecosystem in the last year grew 60%. With certified consultants, those who got their admin certification or their sales cloud or service cloud, grew 68%. So we're continuing to see not just Salesforce growing, but an ecosystem around us. And so that's exciting to me because it's my day job, if you will, but it's also exciting because what it means for all of us here in the VetForce community, because we know we're contributing to a growing ecosystem. We know we're going places where there are jobs that are important, and it supports both us and keeps things both innovative as well as focused. I'll give a little bit of a pitch on what we do at Salesforce. I'll move through this quickly because I know you've had some time to think about it. But one of the things I want to make sure you get your head around, if you've seen this slide a few times, as we go from mainframes and servers, and we're able to now connect over 75 billion devices by 2020. Cloud, mobile, and social matter, but data science, the ability to do analytics on the fly and understand all that data, is critically important. So it's not only about moving to the cloud, it's about moving from places where all we used to have was a system of record to maybe we had a system of engagement where we kept in touch with people. Now we've got systems of intelligence. We sometimes call it an internet of customers, because behind every device, behind every piece of data, there's a customer who wants and needs that data. And all of that lines up to do what we call providing, bridging the customer gap, a way to get across it. So, if we survey customers, 77% of them are not engaged with their companies. They either don't have mobile apps, they're not involved in the community, they can't be identified. Think of all the products you buy every day where, the grocery store or, Crest or Philips doesn't know that you're their customer. And we can bridge that gap, both with the data, the ability to build it. And what we call that is, if we do that, we create customer success. And clearly you see the numbers that drive that. You can get tremendously increased sales, tremendously increased customer satisfaction. Looks like my percentage marks got really small there. High ROI. All of the things that we measure by engaging with customers, and a third party measures this, are what happens when people deploy Salesforce, particularly when they deploy more than just Sales Cloud. They deploy Service Cloud and Marketing Cloud, and they create the customer journey, and that builds to what we call, a customer success platform. That is Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Marketing Cloud, Community, which enables people to engage about information if they're buying or selling, or buying from you, or for service. Finally, we tie all that together with analytics that you can put in the palm of your hand and run from your phone, and then we extend all that with applications from the Force platform. So our ISV partners and others all build on that. Looks like a comment just popped up, so make sure I can read it. Okay. Community is chatter. Yes. Community is chatter. Thanks, John. So Salesforce Community is actually a product. We can launch that, and you can have communities of partners, communities of employees. Chatter is the technology foundation behind it, and then we can plug in other extensions to it, like Sales Cloud or Service Cloud, to create even a broader product. So that's kind of the focus in the pitch on what we do in a product. We're really excited about, this is now 16 years of success, the leading CRM company. We love the accolades we get from Fortune, but we really get excited about being the most innovative company for 4 years in a row. We'll go into this summer hoping to achieve that again. And again, what it really becomes about for us is embracing that magic of how do we innovate and continue to ensure customer success. And you know what? A big piece of the customer success is the people that are in this cohort. If you can get trained, certified, and skilled in Salesforce, and you can build the ability to think creatively about how you want to innovate, but make sure at all times you're designing a system that customers can count on, that's a win for everybody. It's a win for Salesforce, and it's clearly a win for you. The other thing we want to make sure we're continuing to do is give back. So we just hit our 16th year anniversary. John is very familiar with the Salesforce Foundation. The foundation helps support a lot of our nonprofit activities. All of us at Salesforce essentially focus on the 501c3 we set up, and we give back 1% of our time, 1% of our equity, and 1% of our product. There's over 24,000 nonprofits using Salesforce. Our grants have now totaled more than $80 million of equity to nonprofits, and we all donate 1% of our time. We have 6 essentially paid days to provide service. I promise, as John can attest, I spend a lot more than 6 on VetForce and other activities like guiding for the U.S. Association of Blind Athletes. But you know what? That's a great part of the culture. And what's also great is it's extending to our partner ecosystem. So I list just 7 partners at the bottom of this slide, all of whom are engaged in the 111 program. Another company which you guys will be exposed to is RockTech, which is part of VetForce, providing a lot of our training platform. They're also part of the 111 program. So I need to get them on the slide as well. It's a great part of our message. It's a great part of what we do. And it's lots of fun to be part of a company that from the core focuses on giving back. Our little piece is VetForce. I'm sure you've got plenty of exposure to this. This is kind of a headline slide that I share because we have a lot of customers that really get excited about this as well. I'm very proud and happy to list Veterans to Work high and to the left, just like our the stars on the flag. It's a great team to be working with. It's a great program. We do work with several other vet service organizations, but we encourage you to make sure you're enrolled in the VetForce community. You're spending time understanding what free training is available to you. Continue to sign up for additional training. We're going to continue to expand it. I know John has been hard at work at this for 2 years. We really only launched VetForce a little less than 6 months ago, a little over 6 months ago. So we are very excited. We've got almost 1,000 vets enrolled already, with a plan to get and enrich the lives of 10,000, as John highlighted. And let me check on what this comment is here. Yes, RockTech is a technology. John, you're awesome. You do the best commentary ever. Sorry, it's hard to see that in my slide, so I had to pop out and see it. So look, that's what I wanted to make sure I covered, gave you an introduction to me. Those of you who had a chance to work with, hopefully you catch that. I do enjoy embracing that the magic of man. I love taking on challenges, but I like challenges where I'm building relationships. I love following my passion, and I love that I can follow my passion here at Salesforce. And it affects both the quality of the work I do, the quality of work I deliver to my customers, as well as helping women and men like the folks in cohort 7. So I will kind of pause there. We can go back to any slide if anybody wants anything else. Open it up to questions, and I'm happy to answer anything around my career, how I ended up at Salesforce, advice on finding jobs, although you're not going to find better advice, I think, than in the cohort you're with. But happy to share any insights I've got. So at that point, I'll open up my chatter as well and ask if anybody's got any questions.
Dan, thank you. This is a great overview. Really appreciate it. Yeah, I really encourage you guys to ask away. You've got a unique opportunity here.
So in the absence of any initial questions, I will share a little bit, about one of the things that I think is important, and it's actually how I ended up in technology. And we all come from different backgrounds, but I came out of the Army not really having any idea what I wanted to do. I went and did advanced schooling in many ways, which is parallel to what you did, and then I networked with people that I trusted. And so what I really encourage you to do is get to know your friends and folks in the cohort, network with people around, take advantage to what you're doing, take advantage of those who have jobs similar to what you'd like to do and get exposed. And Melanie, you started to ask the question right there, how did I get started in Salesforce? I started actually in CRM to that point. I was giving the broader overview. I was at business school, and one of my classmates worked at Siebel Systems, which was kind of the first, they coined the phrase CRM actually. And several of my friends went to Salesforce. I really liked what Mark was doing. I loved what CRM can do for companies and the concept, and in a lot of ways, just like the military, it's like synchronization of effort, right? If everything works together, you can accomplish a lot more than when you work as silos. And we exemplified that in the military. So in many ways, working in customer relationship management to me was the closest thing I could find to kind of gathering all of those resources, all of the supporting forces, if you will, force multipliers, and pulling it together. And Salesforce is just an extension of that. I did actually work at a couple other companies. At one company, I deployed Salesforce. I went back to work with Tom Siebel, and I just got really excited about what Salesforce was doing, and I essentially networked my way to the job, and as John highlights. It's a good question. Thank you, Melanie. Okay, this is Sean on Jill Ann's computer. Okay. The most important skills to develop as we move into the cloud computing industry. So Sean, first and foremost, having a foundation. So what you are doing right now in this cohort is the most critical thing, and developing some credentials that help you to validate what you know is the first skill. It's not, all you need, so it's the classic phrase, necessary but not sufficient. But your most, I think, important thing is to develop some credentials that demonstrate you have the capability, and you can do that in one of two ways. You can either perform in a job for a period of time, which is sometimes hard to do, or you can do that by testing and certifying and demonstrating you've got the skills, and you can build the experience around it. And that's really why we set up, VetForce, and when we want to work with John. If you can get that Admin 201, and even better, get another certification, you've now kind of crossed that step, and you've now got that necessary piece, which has an employer say, I know they've got the skills to do this job. Now, after that, there's a whole lot of other soft skills to develop. And you all know that, and you're learning that now. And part of it is separating yourself from your military experience. In this audience, it's fun for me to talk about it. But, the first thing I do when I go into a meeting is not, hi, I'm Dan, I used to be in the Army, right? It's, hi, I'm Dan, and here's how I'm going to help you solve whatever you're trying to solve. You've definitely got to learn the empathy of engaging with others and engaging and speaking in whatever their language is or whatever their direction is. So that, to me, is the second most important skill. So first is, your certification, the proving that you've got the credibility. The second is the ability to focus on a business problem, and for lack of a better term, develop empathy. The third thing is something that most of you don't need to develop, but that's delivery, right? It's following up on what you say you're going to do. But if you can do those three things, and again, the first one you're accomplishing with VetForce, the second one the third one you already know, it's the second one, which is developing the language of your customer, speaking from their perspective, not yours, is the biggest next skill that you're going to need to think about developing, that you're not going to kind of be taught so much as part of this cohort. So John's going to summarize credibility, business protocols, empathy, yep, and then deliver. Make sure you accomplish what you say you're going to accomplish. So,
Dan, that's great. I have a question. Let's see, just want to make sure nobody else has a question here before I ask my question. Oh, here we go. Here's a question. So everything you said, blah, 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 blah. I am learning.
Yeah. So,
okay,
so
good.
Nick is talking about separating yourself from your military experience is crucial. It's really true. And sorry, Nicholas, I don't know if you go by Nicholas or Nick. One of the biggest gaps is that some folks have is, so clearly as veterans, our country and our fellow citizens do, for lack of a better term, are indebted, right? But you still got to go earn a job and you got to go earn a place in that market. So making sure that you can show how you can accomplish something in their world is critical. You are, when you're applying for a job, a product. You're making your future employer, your future boss believe you're the product that can make them happier, make them more successful. So always approach your job interviews, always approach every task you take on from, you've got this foundation of credibility, yes, but you got to convert that into a language that, they care about and is going to help them accomplish what they need. And so again, it is not to diminish what you've done, but you can't rest on that alone. As John said, develop yourself through credibility, make sure you understand the business protocol, the language of whatever industry you're engaging in, and then just make sure you follow through.
Dan, I would echo, pardon me, I would echo what you said. I think, once folks are trained and even when they have their certification, it really isn't enough. I mean, I found in following up with many of our graduates and alumni who are still kind of getting going that their biggest challenge has been in really understanding the business environment, the users that they serve, and how to engage with them. Really coming from a place of really understanding what their needs are, and that takes some doing. If you've got the ability to sort of put yourself in another person's shoes, you're ahead of the game. But there are certain, I think, speaking again to the separation, there's certain things that I think in the military we really value, and I think most corporations really value those too. The sense of teamwork, the mission focus, the dedication to duty, the ability to learn. That's huge. And that's what we're trying to demonstrate. But on the other hand, you get out, and Dan mentioned networking, and I've been hammering you guys over the head with that. But that is so important, and yet it is just not instinctive for people that come out of a service environment. Networking is not really on the radar. But most good jobs, the overwhelming majority of good jobs are found through networking. And Dan is a great example, right? From Siebel to Salesforce and beyond, all through personal networking.
Yeah, that's a really great point, John. So the two great points there. One of the great things about us in the military is you get trained to watch your lane, right? Focus on your thing and accomplish your thing. When you move out into this world, you got to be a little bit more exposed to what's going on so you can empathize. And the networking thing, right? And we would have called that back as an infantry officer, that was someone kissing ass. And it's a very different thing because here you're actually gaining information. It makes you smarter and it makes you a more valuable employee when you understand, what else is going on out there. And networking helps accomplish that. I have not taken a job, I think to the earlier question, that essentially someone I have worked with before hasn't called me up and said, hey, here's an interesting job you need to come do. I've never once said, that's a company I want to work at and gone and done that. It's been the other way around. But I've always built a network everywhere I am, and I encourage you to do that. And, reach out to fellow veterans, anybody you find interesting, share what you're doing, give them a little bit of background, and you'll be amazed. There's going to be some people who are too busy, some people who don't respond, but take advantage of the time and don't ever be bashful about reaching out to somebody. That's great. That's a great point, John.
So Dan, I really in follow up to that, our guys are all on LinkedIn. They've all They all have Salesforce as a key word, not as an administrator, of course, but Salesforce trainee, intern at Veterans to Work or whatever. And I don't know, but I'm guessing most of you have probably gotten inquiries from folks just based on the fact that you've got Salesforce in your current job title, even though you're not complete with the course. So there's LinkedIn, but the other thing, I appreciate your comment on this. We have a list of almost 400 Salesforce users, companies with contacts, and we're certainly working through them. But that may not be enough, right? Especially when somebody is in Austin, let's say, and wants to stay there, as we do have. We got Dell, we got Whole Foods there, of course. But my question is there some way that we might put our folks in front of some Salesforce customers that might really like to, might want to give our veterans the workplace learning that they're really looking for next, probably by way of an internship? Is that a possible?
Yeah, so that's absolutely, the next step for us at VetForce. Our first focus, we've got to do both, right? So here I am saying, embrace the magic of and now I'm giving you an either or. Our first step was just to make sure we had a foundation in place to give you the academic alliance, to create VetForce, to get if you will, a mass, and now we need to start continuing to do that outreach. So you'll see us at Dreamforce put a lot of emphasis on this with our customers and our partners on all the VetForce assets, and the VetForce people. But it's a place we have not done as much yet in the first 6 months, John, and that's where we should be doing a lot more in the coming 6 months. So, in the short term, anytime I come across them, as you know, I've sent a few your way, John, and sent a few
Yes.
to others. We do that, and we're going to continue to do that. Hector Perez, who I think has talked with you guys, is actually aggressively calling some of our customers now and developing a directory of those who are interested in bringing on internships. The other piece we want to do is actually find some opportunities within the foundation. There's, like I said, 24,000 nonprofits using Salesforce, none of whom necessarily have their own admins on staff. So it's a great opportunity to get experience, paid or unpaid, and do something really cool. So Ann Wiebe is going to be working on that program as well. So I know with this cohort, it's not the immediate answer, because I know I'd love to say, yeah, go. I've got 4 jobs over at Dell, go get them. But it's absolutely part of what we want to do going forward, and the rest of it. That's a vision for VetForce for sure.
Well, one thing, the nonprofit, the pro bono work for nonprofit is actually a requirement for the course, and we have several of our veterans already have hooked up with the nonprofits. But we, in fact, that was one of the things we talked with Hector about is we'd like to have a more efficient way of connecting our veterans with nonprofits that are either considering Salesforce or setting it up or need to sort of configure it, customize it in some way. So we're very.
Yeah, that's a great. Ann's gonna take that on. Absolutely. So we want to have a better, for lack of a better term, a job, or having a directory of some of the nonprofits that need some help.
That's fantastic. I wanted just in the screen there, I've got a link there that I'd love to get your comment on, because this is what we want to share with all the employers. I just want to see if it would pass the sort of quality test that you might be willing, if you just scroll down. We have, Melanie's a good example. We have the profile, but also not only the resume, but also personal profile with each veteran in uniform. And hopefully, we see this as kind of our billboard for the veterans in our program. Hoping that this would come, be somewhere in the neighborhood of what might help our guys get their first workplace learning.
This is fantastic. This is a really improved. I really like the look and feel of this from what you had before. And Nick, that's a great picture. I think that this is phenomenal, and I think this is a place for certain that we need to make sure Ann is pointing anybody that comes to her. But I'd also love for Ann just to be able to start to matchmake even better. But let's make sure, John, we actually maybe share this with Ann on one of our upcoming VetForce Coalition calls, just so she's got it, in her pocket as we start to look. And we need to make this more available. It's much improved. I really like it.
Good. Well, I mean, the thing we want to, as I've mentioned before, we want to make sure we're working with VetForce in a way that is additive and not duplicating anything. So we want to share as much as we can with you so that you can say, hey, wait a minute, we got that covered. You guys can focus on something else that complements what we're doing. But if this is, So
I know we've talked through this, and this is all part of as we work through the right strategy. I would still say that we should be working with you and other VSOs as kind of the broader program, all of the skill sets, and doing placement, particularly where that helps you. And we're going to continue to make sure we focus on getting you as much training, skills, capability, and community as we can, and start building infrastructure around it. At some point, we can talk about how we do it, but I don't have any immediate roadmap to create anything like this within VetForce itself. I think it is the next would be a great step. So let's talk about that one. I really like the way you put it together.
Well, I didn't mean to take us off into that, but it does bear upon our ability to get our folks really successfully launched into a career and beyond. And so we can talk about that offline. But I think you guys on the call, you have a much better sense for how much Salesforce is invested in your career success. I hope that comes through pretty loud and clear. And we're very grateful for that.
Sean, I'm liking that smile.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got some good looking folks in this group.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. Are you going to be able, by the way, Dan, to come out to celebrate with us on the next Friday?
I'm going to try to. I'm supposed to be out of town coming back in that morning, so I'm working on making sure I can get into the schedule.
Well,
and so would really love to be able to do that, and I really appreciate what you guys are doing. And if there's anything else, I can do in the short term. I'm traveling a little bit. Oh, wait, I got a question here. Sorry, Melanie asked a question. What are things about Salesforce that truly sets us apart? I'll be honest, it's those two things we talked about right from the beginning, Melanie. It is the focus on customer success and matching that with innovation. And I think there's a lot of great companies out there who might focus on innovation. And I'll use Google as an example. Tremendously innovative, great platforms, but don't necessarily have the same focus on understanding your customer's business and speaking to the customer language. Google kind of puts technology there and you use it and adapt it, and it's great. But it's not necessarily tailored, whereas Salesforce, we really work to make sure that we're developing industry-specific solutions. We're listening to customers on what they need. So finding that magic between innovation and customer success, I think, is the key thing that sets Salesforce apart. And that is really hard to replicate because most people decide they're going to do one versus the other. And again, that comes back to the whole concept of Jim Collins and reject the tyranny of or. And focus on the magic of and. And so to Nick's point and John's point, I'm hoping to be able to get out there on your Friday celebration. That would be great. Got to just trying to manage the travel schedule right now.
Well put, Dan. I know you've got a busy schedule, and we want to make sure and respect that time. We appreciate anything we can get. If there are any other questions, we should probably wrap. And if you guys want to stay on the line, we can talk about some housekeeping stuff. But Dan, thank you so much. Really appreciate this. Has been very worthwhile and valuable. And I'm going to make sure that the other folks get to see this, the recording.
No worries. Thanks very much. It's my pleasure. And again, John, thanks for all you and the team do at Veterans to Work, and to everybody on the call, thank you very much for your service. Looking forward to being helpful any way I can. Take care.
Thank you, Dan. Bye-bye.
Bye.